So I have a piece of paper here. This is me recycling paper. So I made some notes from it the other day. I don't like to waste things. I don't like to use any more resources that I don't need to use. Oh, lovely little picture from the daughter. I'll turn it over because that's going to put me off, I think. So, an old piece of paper. Might as well use an old piece of paper because we're recycling, aren't we? So I'm going to fold it in half. And if you know your dimensions well, it should be it's an A4 piece folded, so this makes an A5, which is 21 centimetres in on that direction. Then we have it's about 14.75 in that direction. So what the dimensions we need for our face mask, for an adult face mask, will be 19 centimetres by the widest point 13 centimetres. So the longest point is 19 centimetres and the widest point is 13 centimetres. So I'm going to make my rectangle that size first. So 14.75 down to 13, I'll do it that way round, 13 centimetres along, and so I said it's at its widest it's 13 centimetres along, so if I do that 13 centimetres all the way along, so I'm just doing is measuring from here to this point here. So that then now gives us a line that's 13 centimetres away from our folded edge. So we now have direction of that way, which is now 13 centimetres. I always do my measurements on these, just used to it, a lot of pattern cutting. After years of pattern cutting, because that way it doesn't. You are more likely to remember what I've done and how to change it if I need to. So the next one is the total length is 19 centimetres rather than 21 centimetres. So I'm going to measure from 0 at the bottom up to 19 centimetres at the top. So I'm just making a smaller rectangle based on the dimensions of my pattern. It's quite a good idea to do this on folded paper because then you can make two patterns. Then you can make one that is your original copy and one that is your copy that you can stick on card, so you can always keep what you've done. So that's a new line along that edge, and that now is 19 centimetres along. So 0 to 19. Okay. So I'm just going to draw my arrow on there. Okay. So now what we're going to do is to cut out our new rectangle side, which is 19 centimetres by 13 centimetres. we're left with 19 by 13 centimetre rectangle. Okay, so now our measurements, I want to get a bit more specific how far down they are. So 19 centimetres is the full total length of the face mask at the part of the cut-on fold. So to remind myself of that, I'm going to just put a marker on to my pattern paper, which is like that, which basically means when you see that on pattern paper, it's cut-on fold. Which means the fabric fold is on this side, and I'll explain that a bit better when we go on. So the 13 centimetres is this top part of the top part of it. So what we have, if I show you my original pattern, to get to it you have 13 centimetres here, but it's, as you can see, it's on a diagonal, on an angle, 12.5 at this widest point in the middle, and then it's 12.5 centimetres along with another angle going up at that side. So this is a full 19 centimetres cut on fold side. This is the 14.5 centimetres length, which we haven't done yet, which is going to be along this edge here. So what we need to do is to take the angle on that one, take the angle up on that one, which should then leave us with 14.5 centimetres along this side. So that's what we're going to try and do next. So because the bottom angle on the pattern is shallower, if you can see it against the edges on here on this grid, it's quite shallow, so it's about, let me see how much difference it is if I line up. This is why it's really good having these cutting mats to work on when you're doing pattern cutting or cutting out. Straight line there, and this would be a right angle here, so it's about 1.5 centimetres, but to be technically correct, I can check that, it's 1.3 centimetres. So all I'm going to do here is on the bottom part of this pattern is 1.3 centimetres up from here, so 0 to 1, and then 1.3 is our little marker here. And then, so we're keeping the 19 centimetres all the way down this edge. I'm going to go from point here to here. So that then gives us our shallow diagonal line. That is there. Okay. So to be able to do the one at the top, we'll do exactly the same again. But with you, all you need to do is, if you've got the 19 centimetres down one side and the 13 centimetres down that side, you'll already be able to just put in your 1.3, sorry, up, and then draw along that line there. So then I now need to see what the right angle is from along this straight line. There's my right angle to here. So how much am I missing between here and this point here? So I'll simply measure that, and it is 3.6 centimetres. So to my pattern paper, 3.6 centimetres. Centimetres down on that edge. There's our marker, so this is 3.6 here. And to make sure that then my line goes out all the way to the top left hand corner point. So we now have what should start to look like mirror imaging this pattern. Okay. And to make sure that we've got our measurements right, we can measure along that line and see if that's 13 centimetres. Hopefully it should be there or thereabouts. 13.2 or 3 centimetres. It's slightly wider, but either way it doesn't matter. It's better to have a little bit more. It's not an exact science when you're doing pattern cutting, quite like this. we're just using what we've got really. So that's 13 centimetres, so they're all slightly bigger than they need to be at the moment. So I'm going to put that down there. That was 13.3 centimetres, and that one was 13 centimetres along. As I say, I just write them down just so that I can remember what they are. Okay, and then the main thing now is to make sure that this edge is the 14.5 centimetres in length, and it is 14 centimetres. I'm pretty happy with that actually. That's that edge. Okay, so remember what we've got to still do, which is to shorten this edge and this edge, because this one needs to be 12.5. Now I used to always think that at school I was terrible at maths, really bad at maths, and I got a D in GCSE. I wasn't too happy with it, but I knew that I wasn't going to do that well because I really struggled with it, understanding a lot of any of it, what I was doing. It turns out, actually, I'm pretty good at maths. I didn't realise that on a practical level, I could use it, you know, far too easily, and to other people it might seem like, wow, how the hell do you do that? But actually, it's quite easy. It's just numbers, isn't it? 12.5, so that's the measurement along this bottom here, 12.5. So I'm just marking off where my 12.5 comes to on there, and then the top measurement should be 13, not 13.3. So if I just mark that off, 13 centimetres is along from that point to there. So I've now got what should be, if you need to, just sort of scribble out old measurements. It can get a bit confusing otherwise, I do understand that, but hopefully you can understand what I'm doing still. So now if we take our new point here and our new point here and we join those lines up, hopefully when I then when I then measure this new line here, what have we got? We've got 14.2 centimetres. So it's not too far off at all. And once I've cut this out, and I'm going to cut around the edges of the lines, I'm pretty happy that that is more or less the size that we need. It's only giving a 0.2 or 0.3 of a centimetre anyway, so it won't make much difference. So I'm just going to cut that out now. So I'm going to cut on the out. God, can't get any fingers to work on the outside of that edge. And I'm also going to cut this edge as we go. And don't worry about this point if you're now cutting off the measurements, because it's not so important now. We now have our pattern piece as it is. Just now just need to finish it off. And the other thing to do is to show you just why it's important. If you do it on an A4 piece, and fold it in half, you've got two copies of exactly the same pattern then. Obviously it's got some more writing on that side, but it doesn't really matter. So before you cut that out, just do that central line on that edge. And then we're going to only do this part, only cut this off once you've finished doing all your alterations to your pattern, because if you have to alter it again, you're going to have to alter it on both of them if you wanted to keep both. So I have one here that I'm going to put my measurements on, and then this other piece I'm going to then stick to the card, and that's going to be the one which hasn't got all the writing on it. There is some logic, I promise. So this is just going to be my copy that I'm going to keep. And I do this with most and all patterns. So that one is 13 centimetres. Got 14.5 centimetres along this. So this is a pattern just adapted from patterns that I've seen people posting on Facebook and on the internet, and on this Crycut website that I use for my vinyl cover. It's 14.5 centimetres, but yeah, I've just adapted it and you can adapt them quite easily as well. So this is an adult size one. But yeah, as I say, you can easily change it and adapt it. 12.5 centimetres that way. I'm going to just rub that bit out there so I don't get totally confused. And move that one along there. And then I'm just going to put in that full measurement on there. So I'm just going to rub that one out. I've already got my cut on fold line on there. So hopefully this shows basically what it needs to be, just in case we decide we wanted to do it again. I think this one was 12.5, wasn't it? So 13 centimetres along the top diagonal edge, 14.5 centimetres along this right hand side, 12.5 along this bottom diagonal edge, and then 19 centimetres along the fold line. The middle section is about 12.5 centimetres, and I think that's 12.5 centimetres along there, along here, and about here as well. So that's our pattern ready. Now we can keep that one, and then now we've got this one. Or this one, slide it that way up with the eyes peeking. So that's our pattern that we can then put on our card. So we'll move on to the last part of putting our pattern ready, and so to put this onto some card now. I've just been in the recycling box, and this week's bite-sized wheat shreds are not going to be used for our pattern. We use our scissors. And I'm going to simply just cut just a section of the card. Again, we're just recycling what we've already got. So your pattern, please go onto here. Now I'm going to glue it onto this side, so that when I cut it out, the actual right side of my pattern is the cardboard, which is the same as what I did with my other pattern piece. So nice little bit of PVA glue. Just a bit. I might just use a bit of the cardboard I've got to spread that about. So yucky, making a mess. I'm going to stick it. I don't know why I've gone right in the middle of the card. I never usually do that. It's all about trying to use the least amount as possible. But just needed to get it down. So you can leave that to dry, and then once it's dried, I'm going to cut it out. using kid scissors really. It's easier if you use just a normal pair, like kitchen household scissors. Seem to have lost everything at the minute though. I'm sure they'll be somewhere. I'll flip it over. You can see we have our pattern here. So now if you want to get your pencil and your ruler, I tend to just make sure I'm doing this, so I'm going to do my cut on fold sign on there. And so this is adult face mask. We're going to have to cut on fold 2 of these, so it'll be, I always put on here, I'll put cut times 2 fabric. I put cut times 2 fabric because sometimes you cut times 1 fabric, cut times 1 lining. Now we will have a lining on this, but it's the same fabric, so we're going to use the same fabric. Basically that's all you need on there. Next is to cut it out. And the fabric. So we're going to use, everything's recycled. I've got some nice, looks like they were a set of his and hers pillowcases. No particular reason. So we have already lovely fold line here that will make it easier to put against and cut out from. The only thing is that ideally I could have done with giving this a bit of a press. What you want to do when you're cutting it out is to make sure that it's nicely positioned and so that you've not got bits of the fabric getting crumpled up on the other side. Now I've said on this pattern we need to cut times 2 in fabric, so if I put that on there and then pinned it on, cut it out, I would only have one on the fold, so I need to double this up. So all I'm going to do is simply fold this over, so then that gives me 2 on the fold there. This is where I probably should get the iron out. Let's see if I can cheat. I can cheat. Get it nice and smooth. Put on our pattern piece on the folded edge to make sure that it lines up this edge here and all the way up to that top part there. And then I'm going to use some nice big pins. I'm going to start at this edge and make sure that I'm going through both bits of the fabric at the same time. To secure them. I'm going to just do exactly the same on this end. You can also, quite helpful to pin it all the way along that folded edge to make sure it stays, it doesn't move as you're cutting it out. Always make sure you go in all the in all the corners as well. It is harder to pin through on the cardboard, but in terms of doing it with pattern paper. But I always find you've got a lovely strong edge to cut up against when you use card as your pattern instead of your paper pattern. You can just stick the paper on there, you don't need to put it onto card. But as I say, it does make it much better. Now just double check that underneath your fabric is nice and flat, so when you cut it you're not going to end up with a different size pattern piece than you actually want it to be cut. And then all you need is your fabric scissors. Got these beasts, look at them, huge. Try not to chop anything that doesn't need chopping. Just the fabric, and try not to chop into your paper or your card or you will damage your scissors. Now, I'm going to try and do it. That's it. Just trying to do it so that the fabric, I don't chop off that, because that might be quite useful at some other stage. So that's that part of the fabric cut out. I'll keep any scraps. You can use them as stuffing in like soft toys or little pillows, or we're also going to do I'm going to do a little pin cushion live fit, and that'll be a really simple one where if you just use old scraps of fabric, you can stuff them in your pin cushion rather than buying more stuff that you don't need. Okay, so then I'm going to unpin it. The kids did this lovely thing with my pin cushion not that long ago actually. They organised them into different colours. I seem to have made a bit of a mess of it, but it's quite nice to put them back in there where they're supposed to belong. Anyway, distracted. So we should have now 2 pieces cut out of the fold, which then gives us two pieces like that.